Fancy a trip to the bird park? All Singaporeans aged 18 and above are set to receive $100 worth of local tourism vouchers.
Singapore Airlines letting go of about half of its cadet pilots and cabin crew trainees.
5 million and counting, India's COVID-19 cases continue to rise, crossing another milestone.
Hello, welcome to The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay.
And I'm Haryanto Diman. Now remember, you can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode.
Now, maybe it's time to start planning a staycation, Jan, because the government announced today that every Singaporean aged 18 and above this year will get $100 worth of tourism vouchers for local use.
The vouchers are part of the Singapore Rediscovers campaign designed to give our local tourism industry a much-needed boost. Multimedia journalist Chow Suen reports.
Air travel might not be possible now, but it doesn't mean that Singaporeans shouldn't set their sights on the skies and get some bird watching in while they're at it. Locations like the Jurong Bird Park are one of many places where Singaporeans can spend their Singapore Rediscover vouchers. So they will soon be receiving $100 worth through their SingPass accounts, which they can spend at staycations, local attractions, as well as local tours across the island.
We will roll out the Singapore Rediscover vouchers to encourage our Singaporeans to visit the various attractions. Now, this is not a social assistance scheme. This is an economic scheme to help our tourist attractions preserve their capabilities that have been built up over the years while they consolidate the capacity in the interim. So with this $320 million worth of vouchers, we hope that Singaporeans will take the opportunity to support our local attractions, and then this will allow our various attractions like the bird park and the zoos to preserve the capabilities that they have built up. We have kept the scheme relatively simple. So, for example, they can use this to pay off the tickets or defer the cost of the tickets for coming in. But when they come in, they will spend on some of the F&Bs and other services that the attractions, the hotels or the tours provide.
That this will be a digital by default mechanism. So we expect that users would have to use SingPass as a means of identifying themselves as a Singaporean citizen who's eligible for the credits.
The scheme, which will last for 7 months from December 2020 to end June 2021, will include a $10 subsidy for up to 6 child or youth tickets for attractions and tours per voucher user.
This is actually targeted for the domestic market. So we start this in December because it coincides with the December school holidays. And then, but we don't need to everybody rush to use up this in December because we have given it a certain period of time for it to be done in December. And then of course you have the short March holiday next year and also the June holidays next year.
It might be early on a Wednesday morning, but already groups of domestic tourists can be spotted here at Jurong Bird Park. And soon, more eager bird watchers will be able to flock down as attractions continue to expand their capacity. Currently, tourist attractions are restricted to 25% of their total operating capacity, but they can apply to expand that to 50% come Friday. As for outdoor performances, they can also seek the Singapore Tourism Board's permission to scale up the capacity at their shows to 250 people, up from the 50 they're currently allowed to have. Chow Suen for the Straits Times.
Let's discuss this further with Dr. Wong King Yin, a marketing lecturer at Nanyang Technological University. Dr. Wong, thank you so much for setting aside time to speak with us. Dr. Wong, how far will this initiative go in boosting the tourism sector?
Just to give you some numbers so that you can have a better perspective. So last year, our annual tourism receipt in Singapore is about $27 billion. And let's say if we assume that about half of the Singapore citizens use this $100 voucher. And if every one of us, when we use it, we try to spend another $100 from our own pocket. I think when we add up this number is about $150 million. So when you compare with last year annual tourism receipt, it's about maybe 1-2% of the previous year annual tourism receipt. So I think it helps a bit, but not like a lot to really boost the tourism industry. But on the other hand, I think the financial help is still helpful because it can boost the morale in the tourism industry. Because right now we know that some hotels or some industry players, they need to close down, and also they need to lay off some of their staff. And I think employees in this industry may feel very worry about all this, the future of their career, the future of the industry. So I think this voucher or this scheme can really help the industry to boost their morale, so that they can feel that, okay, government is still supporting our industry, and let's hang in there and then wait for the better to come.
Right.
Yes.
Well, Doctor, still on the subject of support measures, beyond these tourism credits, what kind of help does the tourism sector need from the government? And actually, how can the sector help itself?
An idea just popped up in my mind is that because due to COVID-19, I think a lot of attractions or even hotels, they need to follow the social distancing rules. And how they can do it, maybe if government can help them to develop a centralized app that can monitor the real-time capacity of each of the attraction or hotels, then people can know better whether they should choose this attraction or to visit it that particular day. Then I think it would be helpful to the industry, because if each hotel or each attraction, they need to develop it by themselves, it may cost them a lot. So that is an idea that just popped up in my mind.
And Doctor, how can the sector help itself? How better can the tourism industry use this downtime, so to speak, to prepare for when things pick up again?
I think many industry players now may think about it in the direction of providing some discounts or some package deals to Singaporeans. And I agree that Singaporeans really like discount and deals, but then I would suggest maybe we can think in another direction, that is to really understand the current needs of our market. So for example, maybe we know that during the lockdown period, a lot of parents, they really need to stay at home every day, full day with their kids. And I heard from many of them, they feel very tired about that. So I think maybe staycation can try to cater to these needs. So for example, it's not just selling the family a room and breakfast, but try to incorporate some other things, like maybe you can have some teacher during the staycation to help the parents to take care of the kids and also to teach them some new things. So during that time, then parents can really take rest and maybe give them some spa to enjoy the time during the staycation, rather than still need to take care of the kids. So that's something the industry can do if they can really understand better the current needs of the market. And on the other hand, I think during this downtime, I think it's good for the industry to think about how to incorporate some technologies into their business process. So for example, maybe try to think about the attractions. When someone go into the attractions, nowadays we know that we want to encourage more contactless interaction between the staff and the customers. So when customers, maybe they have questions during their visit of the theme park or attractions, they may want to ask some questions. And is it possible for maybe for the attractions to use messenger apps or some messaging tools, just like WhatsApps, so that when the customers visiting the attractions, they can just use maybe WhatsApp to ask the staff questions, rather than really need to have face-to-face interaction with the staff. So this is something that popped up in my mind that the industry can think about.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Wong.
Thank you.
We've been speaking to marketing lecturer at NTU, Dr. Wong King Yin.
On to the latest COVID-19 situation here. 27 new cases were confirmed today. They included 2 community cases, both of whom are work pass holders. There were also 2 imported cases. Singapore's total count is now 57,515. More details will be released tonight.
Also in the local headlines, Propnex Realty is rolling out a $7.3 million career enhancement package for its sales team to accelerate the use of technology in real estate. The initiative comprises training subsidies and digital transformation tools for 8,700 Propnex agents. They will also receive $100 in cash to upgrade their skill sets.
The former principal of an education centre, who was assisted by her then tutors to help 6 students cheat during the 2016 O-level examinations, was sentenced to 4 years jail today. Po Yen Ni and 2 former tutors, Fiona Po Min and Feng Ri Wen, were each found guilty of 27 counts of cheating on July 7th. A few hours before each examination, they helped to tape communication devices on the students. The students then attended the examinations with these devices tapped to their bodies, carefully concealed by their clothes. Today, Fiona Po was sentenced to 3 years jail, while Feng was sentenced to 2 years and 4 months in jail.
In local sports, young footballers at the Lion City Sailors Football Academy will soon have a new multi-million-dollar home as it plans to build its own facility by 2022. Touted as the first fully functional training centre here, the venue is expected to cost $10 million. It will house 6 artificial turf pitches with flexible configurations to accommodate the club's youth and adult players. It will also boast a clubhouse with dedicated locker rooms and showers, functional and recovery gyms, as well as a canteen. The academy's current site at Mata Road is an option for this new facility, and the club is in discussions to secure a long-term extension of the lease, which expires in April.
In other news, Singapore Airlines has let go about half of its cadet pilots and cabin crew trainees, and the rest will have to leave after their training is completed. There are more than 400 staff at various stages of training.
Well, this is part of SIA's downsizing of its workforce. If you recall, the SIA group said last week that it would cut around 4,300 positions, including retrenching about 2,400 staff.
So from the start of this week, retrenched workers started receiving their pink slips. Those affected will continue to receive their salaries until December 15th and will also retain their medical and other benefits until then.
Well, traineeships and SIA's retrenchment exercise. We'll discuss these 2 topics with news editor at the Straits Times, Karamjit Kaur. Well, Karamjit, welcome back to the show. So when you were last on, you spoke about how SIA conducts itself during this retrenchment exercise and whether or not it will make a difference for its staff. You said that if you have to let go of people, do it in a dignified way. So how has SIA fared so far, you think?
Right. Yes, indeed, I did say that. Since then, SIA has started its retrenchment exercise. Started on Monday. That's when the first few cabin crew and other staff got their pink slips. When you want to look at how SIA has fared so far, let's look at 2 different levels. One is to look at the retrenchment benefits. What sort of package SIA is offering staff that are being retrenched. And we've reported on some of the details. If you've had 2 years of service within the airline, it's 1 month of pay for every year of service, capped at 25 months. If you look at the guidelines that the Ministry of Manpower has, it's anything between 2 weeks to a month. So there, fair to say that SIA is, on the higher end of that spectrum. But significant to point out, I think that apart from that, SIA has also confirmed that although staff are being retrenched, they will remain, on the payroll until December 15th. They will continue to be paid until then, as well as enjoy health and other benefits that the airline provides. The other thing that SIA has done is that they will also pay the retrenched staff a salary in lieu of the usual notice period. So that can range from a month to up to 3 months, depending on the sort of contract that they have. So that's as far as benefits are concerned. The other part of this really is, how the news is being told to staff affected. And again, we've done reports on this. So, they've arranged for taxis, for example, to pick staff up from their homes or wherever they are to the SIA training center where the retrenchment exercise is being done. For cabin crew, when they come in, there's a briefing with the head of cabin crew. After that, they go into individual briefings where they are explained, where they are, informed about the terms of the retrenchment, what sort of package they have, what sort of benefits. There are counsellors on site, in the event that some sort of counselling is needed. There are union leaders there as well. And once that is done, again, there is transport to take them back to their homes or, wherever it is that they, would like to go to. So I think, if you look at the whole range, I think fair to say that SIA is doing it, correctly and in the right way.
Now, the airline has let go of about half of its cadet pilots and cabin crew trainees, while the rest will have to leave after their training is completed. When that happens, though, where will these pilots go and what can they do?
So I think really when you look at cadet pilots, for example, it's the same sort of question that every retrenched worker is asking himself or herself, right? There's very little flying, there's no employment within the airline. So it's a matter of looking at your skills set, looking at what sort of interests you have, and then they just have to look for opportunities elsewhere. These are quite young cadet pilots. Most of them are in their early 20s. They may decide to just sort of just chill for a bit, or maybe do some courses and hope that things sort of recover in the next 2 to 3 years or so. SIA has given a commitment of sorts that, when things do recover to pre-COVID levels, they are very much open to hiring, these cadet pilots. And that makes sense because it's not cheap, to train a pilot. We're looking at about $250,000. When we move to cabin crew, I think for them, there is quite a bit of demand for the sort of skills that they have. So, whether it's healthcare, for example, we've done stories of Kutik Puat Hospital, for example, that has taken in quite a number of, SIA cabin crew for customer fronting sort of positions in healthcare. There are some schools that have taken them in as well. So for the cabin crew, you would imagine that the majority of them would probably go into customer-facing sectors and industries.
Right. Well, Karam, when you were previously on the show last Friday, we also talked about how domestic flights isn't possible for our national carrier. The Straits Times also reported last week that SIA is looking to launch flights to nowhere for domestic passengers. Since then, though, environmental groups have expressed concern about the unnecessary impact on the environment. So what are your thoughts on this campaign?
So this, I think, it's very interesting. During a crisis, you would imagine that all companies, SIA and others, you want to think of everything and anything, to try and sort of prop up the business. The whole idea is to think out of the box. So I think it is in that context that we talked about the possibility that flights to nowhere may be mounted. Very interesting, the sort of comeback from the environmentalists. The reactions have been quite strong. Why do you want to do this? Because we're talking about pollution and all that. But I think for me, what's more interesting is that it's not just them sort of hitting, hard at SIA. It's they actually have come up with a lot of suggestions. So there was an online post portal that was created, and to date, the last time I checked, there was something like 800 odd. Comments with all kinds of suggestions, So they are, suggesting, for example, why don't you just, open up your flight, for example, for tours, do cockpit tours, or have people sort of experience that SIA service, allow them to have meals, while sitting in business class, for example. Allow them to sort of experience the suites. So I think it's very heartening, and I think SIA should be very heartened that people are so concerned and actually genuinely want to offer some ideas for SIA. At the end of the day, is this going to make a difference as far as the bottom line is concerned? no. I mean, how much can you possibly charge for these tours anyway? But I think good for SIA to consider some of these ideas quite seriously, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to fly as far as leisure travel is concerned. So from the marketing perspective, if you look at it, this provides an opportunity for SIA to sort of allow more people to experience that SIA service, while grounded. And who knows, sitting in business class or in the suites, it might inspire people to one day sort of say, oh, when flying resumes again, I must, fly SQ and I must, sit in business class. So from a marketing, branding perspective, I don't think it's a big idea. Will it move the needle as far as revenue is concerned? Very, very unlikely.
All right. It still remains to be seen what kind of suggestions, that SIA will take. Well, thank you so much, Karan, for joining us again. Always a pleasure to speak with you. That was Karamjit Kaur, the Straits Times news editor. In the global headlines, India's health ministry reported that the country's total coronavirus cases passed 5 million today. India has for some time been recording the world's biggest daily jumps in cases. And today the rise was just over 90,000 with a record 1,290 deaths. India's total count is just behind the US, which currently has the most cases with over 6.7 million.
China is inoculating tens of thousands of its citizens with experimental coronavirus vaccines despite expert concerns over the safety of drugs that have not completed standard testing. The vaccines are also grabbing attention in the global scramble to secure supplies, potentially helping reframe China's perceived role in the pandemic. Beijing has not released official data on the uptake in domestic targeted groups, which include medical, transport and food market workers. But China National Biotech Group, the unit developing two of the emergency use vaccines, and US-listed Sinovac Biotech have confirmed that at least tens of thousands of people have been inoculated.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump today again raised hopes by saying a vaccine could be 3 or 4 weeks away. This despite cautionary notes sounded by some US public health officials about that accelerated timeline. Speaking at a town hall in Philadelphia, Mr. Trump defended his handling of the coronavirus crisis and said a vaccine could be ready for distribution before the US presidential election on November 3rd. Earlier this month, top US infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci told CNN that most experts believe a vaccine will be ready by November or December, although he didn't think that it's likely. Other experts say a scientifically credible vaccine will not be available until early 2021.
Japan's new Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga has picked a so-called continuity cabinet after he was formally voted as Japan's Prime Minister in Parliament today. Out of 21 members, 8 are from the previous administration and only 2 are women, while new Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi is the younger brother of previous PM Shinzo Abe. Mr. Suga has pledged to continue Mr. Abe's policies, including Abenomics.
Skandar Waterfront Holdings has hired banks to help prepare for an IPO in Kuala Lumpur. If it manages to raise about 5 billion ringgit, this would be the biggest first-time share sale in Malaysia since 2012. The company originally aimed to list on the domestic market this year, but the plan was pushed back to the second half of 2021 because of the impact from the coronavirus pandemic. It also said it may consider a second listing in mainland China or Hong Kong after it goes public in KL.
Well, those are our top stories for today, and for more news and videos, of course, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below.
Once again, I'm Haryanto Diman with Olivia Quay. Join us tomorrow for more stories on A Big Story.